Here we go. Carl, thank you for being patient with that. Carl Edwards is going to, I believe, have to race his way into the All-Star race tomorrow with Sprint Showdown. Got your strategy?
Yeah, we just got to go fast. There were some pretty fast cars in the shootout practice there, but I felt like ours was pretty good. We could run some pretty fast laps, and then I just watched the beginning of the All-Star practice, and it looked like we would be fairly competitive with a lot of those guys, at least on their first run. So yeah, I feel pretty good about it. But it's just like just like back at the dirt track. Just we got to work, race our way into the feature here, and hopefully we can do it.
Sounds good. Questions for Carl? Raise your hand. State your name and affiliation. Let's start over here. Let's go Joe, Chuck, and then I see Monty.
Sorry, Monty. I was going to give it to you. Joe Menzer, NASCAR.com. Carl, could you just talk a little bit about, the All-Star race, how special it is, and how painful it would be to miss it, how this Sprint Showdown kind of is shaping up as a All-Star race in its own with everybody that's trying to get in?
Yeah, well, we ran really well. I think we sat on the pole and led most of the it's called the Showdown, right? It's called the Shootout or Showdown? It's a Showdown.
Sprint Showdown.
Right. Nice. So we led most of the Showdown one time and then finished third, and man, that was tough. That was really tough. So, to sit back and watch this race is not what any driver wants to do, but that's what part of what makes it so special is that it really is an elite group of drivers in the All-Star race, and if we earn our way into it, then we'll go race, and if we don't, we'll move on to the next weekend. So I've been on both sides of it, but I can tell you it's a lot more fun to race in that All-Star race than it is to watch it.
Chuck.
Monty, I'm going to go now. If that's all right. Chuck Howard, NASCAR Media Group. Carl, not to look too far down the road, but Pocono in several weeks. You've got a couple wins there. Would it be safe? You've got an affinity for that track.
Yeah, I really enjoy racing at Pocono. It's fun. I mean, I was just describing it the other day to someone. You drive down into Turn 1 and you go extremely, extremely fast, and then you come off of Turn 1. There's these big bumps, and you go down that back straightaway that has the tunnel turn in it, and that turn's one of the most difficult turns in the series. And then they put that new patch of pavement in 3 and 4 or Turn 3, whatever you want to call it, and that makes that really a driver's corner down there. You can drive around and make some things happen. So I think all the drivers would agree that place, is pretty fun. It's pretty fun to drive. I know a lot of people knock it and say it's not that much fun to watch, but if they were sitting in my seat, they'd enjoy it. That's for sure.
Monty.
Monty Dutton, Gaston Gazette. Carl, I was doing some research recently, and obviously the Showdown has probably the greatest field ever. There's an inordinately large number of prominent drivers who have not qualified for the All-Star race. If you look back 10 years ago, there were a select few that won most of the races, but occasionally somebody like, say, Bobby Hamilton at Talladega or Joe Nemechek at Loudon or John Andretti at Martinsville would sort of come from nowhere and just spank the field. It seems now that whenever an upset occurs, it's a consequence of strategy, pit stops or staying out when other people do it. So what I'm asking is that maybe one of the reasons that you haven't won is that you're fast enough to do the normal strategy of outrunning everybody, and maybe you're not taking chances strategically, but you have just a little bit of performance disadvantage, and maybe that's one of the reasons that this field is so strong in the Showdown. That's
pretty insightful. I hadn't thought of it that way, but maybe that's true. If you you'll hear this a lot on race day. They'll say, "Hey, should we pit or not pit?" And they say, "Just do what the leaders do." And if you feel like you're competitive, you'll do what the leaders do because those are the guys you're racing. So if you race that way, and you're not quite fast enough to win, you're always going to be doing what the fast guys are doing. So that's a good question. And with the way the sport's going now, with these 3 attempts at a green-white checkered and all the chaos at the end of the race, is that the race can be flipped over with with a change of the cars can be flipped over. The race can be flipped over though, figuratively, with some strategy change. So that's maybe why you see some of the results you see. Yeah.
What else for Carl? Other questions? Nothing? Carl, good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you, guys. Have fun.
Thanks for visiting us. Stand by for Greg Biffle.